Hi everybody, I'm Mike the Man and welcome to my channel. You don't have to send me a message, you can tag me at Firetown on Twitter. You come across something that you think is useful, something that you think there's something there, something that just doesn't sit well with you. Send it my way or simply tag me in it. The 3 steps to statement analysis, unless you are hired to do a complete statement, find the right statements. That is number 1. When you have long interviews, pages and pages and pages to go through, being able to find the right statement is the most important part. I listen to interviews, I don't get far. I stop and I pick the statement. I don't know yet what the rest of the interview has to offer, but I know there's something right here. And the beginning parts of an interview are often crucial, simply because, let's say there's an open-ended question. The interviewee has to choose where to begin. He has to reveal his priorities. And the worst thing that you can possibly do is be accusatory, which is why the interviews from Chris Proudfoot are so telling, simply because he vets the people who interview him. He makes sure none of them are expressing any type of suspicion. None of them are that curious about certain inconsistencies. So for him, it's going to be very easy to talk, and that's what he wants to do. And please remember that the more statements from one person you analyze, the clearer that person's profile becomes. You can be an FBI profiler and focus intensely on an individual, and after many, many hours, you come up with the profile. Or you have an overload of statements and you recognize the patterns, and the patterns become more and more obvious the more interviews you go through. And the common denominators stand out to the point where you get an idea of who the person is. And when it comes to Mr. Chris Proudfoot, who is Chris Proudfoot? Well, what you see is all there really is. He's very simple. His mind, there is no... He needs to talk. He wants to talk because he's proud of something. He's bragging about something. He's bragging about how nobody is going to find anything, and history down in this case will go down in history as something, one of the few crimes that can never be solved, one of the great mysteries. And one of the reasons that he is always on the lives, this is something where he feels actually very, how can I say that? It elevates him. It elevates him to know something that you don't know. And trust me, in his life, that's not often the case, that he knows something that other people do not know. So I have called him simple-minded before. I have said a few things that maybe were not the most professional things to say, coming from my position. But I don't want you to overthink somebody. I want you to allow everybody to tell you who they are, and they will reveal it through their language. So of course the second step will be to transcribe a statement. That can be tedious, and you will never get... There are a few cases where you will get it 100%. When it comes to Katie Proudfoot especially, she sort of swallows words often. If that's the best way I can put it. She also races through some of the statements that are scripted, and she is not easy to make out at times. So that's actually the most tedious part, the transcribing. The analyzing part is not as hard when you have already transcribed it and something already stood out to you, because while you transcribe, you look at it again and again and again, and suddenly writing down the words actually brings them to life, and it's easy to recognize many of the aspects. Now, we don't expect everybody to stop what they're doing, spend every waking minute, but you'd be surprised how easily people are complacent. Well, that's what Chris Proudfoot said. We don't expect everybody to stop what they're doing, spend every waking minute, but you'd be surprised, yeah? Well, maybe not anymore. On how easily people are complacent. He loves to teach. He looks at himself as somebody who is now in a position to teach you about people, about basically everything, right? Yeah, people, of course people are complacent, especially you and Katie, who sit in the house. You take your trailer down to what, Mississippi, who have not shown any kind of movement in terms of trying to figure out where your son might be, who you say just wandered off. He wants people to be down on his level. Okay, I'm complacent. Okay, cool. This is an encouragement to do nothing. Don't worry about it. Please do, by all means. Do not feel obligated. Come on, man. The parent of a missing child, in that moment, if there's ever a moment to be selfish, that is the one. Please just call out. I don't care if you call out to work. I don't care if you even skip your classes. Just, this is important right now, and there's nothing else I can think about than getting my child back. This is not a statement that you give when you are in complete despair and not realize certain things. Really? I do realize, and many of us do. Maybe you wouldn't, Chris, because you would not be able to follow something that requires you to think, but your wife does. Your wife most likely watches, well, Seth watched one of my videos, but at least when Betty featured it on her channel, I don't know, but Katie, I think she is, if she's not watching me, she is watching analytical things, because she changes her approach from interview to interview. And as I've pointed out recently, she has learned a lot from her own mistakes. And she goes back to them and she tries to correct them or minimize them by saying something completely different now, hoping you will all forget what she initially said, which is why I always say, if you have something to send to me, look through the older interviews, not the new ones. I don't care. And it's an insult to me actually when people say, you should listen to this channel, or this interview, 3 hours long. Do you really think that's what I want to do? Do you really think I'm in creator chat, or whatever you call it, arguing with people who were not even there? And it's disappointing, because all of you could spend a lot more time actually focusing on what's important, and not the people who are using this case to make a name for themselves without contributing anything. So I'm always happy to see people watch this video or my videos and comment on them, meaning I can see that all the noise around this case is just noise, and there are people who are concerned and thinking about it and have been thinking about it. The problem is that so many of you who now leave comments and tell me, this is what I thought from the very moment, but I didn't know how to articulate it, or nobody else thought this way. Yeah, that's exactly the problem. Do not participate in these long do not support people who will probably all cut a deal if they can to be on the Netflix special, which is why they're using it to create a show. I have no problem with any of that if you contribute something. But if you are a supporter of somebody who doesn't contribute anything and just gossips, does that make you any better than the people who actually do it and make money doing it? No. This is why Seth blew up in the very beginning. They're using Seth blowing up as an excuse to continue what they have been doing. So they're attacking the father of a missing child, the only one whose statements haven't shown any guilty knowledge whatsoever. We are guilty. We are all guilty. This is a form of an admission. Not the admission, but it's an embedded indication. He feels actually a need to say that there is guilt between him and his wife, but he needs to include others. You are no better than me. Do not judge me. We are guilty, but you are as well. You would probably do the same thing in my situation as well. That's the kind of message he's trying to send to you. He loves we. When he indicated something about being vetted and cleared, which he wasn't, he loves to broaden the circle. He needs support. Every single parent, he said. He cannot talk about himself specifically, but he would like to be a part of a larger group of support that understands what he has done. Another thing that he said. Another thing that he said. Can you see this? Thank you very much. Another thing that he said was, people assume who we are, but not who we truly are. Let that sink in for a minute, and I will do my next video on that statement specifically. People assume who we are, but don't know who we truly are. Something like that. It was an indication that people got it pretty right. They got it right. They got the facts right. But they don't really understand why. Who we truly are versus who we are. He didn't say they assume that we are something we are not, but that they assume who we are. They get it pretty right. They got the idea. But there's something missing. And what is missing is his version. His justification. Everything they're doing is about justifying whatever they have done. Because the boy is known for crapping on himself and peeing on himself. He is awkward. He is everything negative that Chris Proudfoot can manage to indicate. The message is you would not like him either. That is what Chris Proudfoot is trying to tell you. Parents of a missing child do not trash their child. They turn their child into an angel. It is again, my favorite comedian, Norm Macdonald, he made this joke about the lady that's missing and how he wants to meet her because everybody says she's so wonderful. But then he says, oh yeah, I forgot, she's missing. That's actually expected from us. That's expected that you say, this guy, this child, I wished I had done more. I wished I had tried harder when he or she was around. The regrets kick in. Parents of missing children often make statements where they put themselves at fault for many things that really are not to be categorized as being at fault at all. But they feel, had any of their actions been different, they wouldn't be in this situation. That's expected. And that, my friends, is absolutely normal. This is abnormal, what he is all stating. So now he's telling us, don't really worry about it. We understand if you're complacent. And don't worry about not realizing certain things. There are certain things, but don't even stress yourself. Don't strain yourself. We are all guilty. Not all, but he injects that. He wants us to include ourselves and see life from his point of view. He wants us to see Sebastian from his point of view. He wants us to feel as negatively towards Sebastian as he did. And until recently he was 100% sure that whatever was pulled off, that he has guilty knowledge of, was just so genius nobody could ever find out. However, in our legal system, things are a little bit different, and enough circumstantial evidence pointing towards them will eventually, well, we don't know. We really don't know. So you can send any of my videos to law enforcement if you think that they are helpful. I would love to see people coming towards analyses much rather than gossip, much rather than chit chat. It's really, I don't understand it, because I find these creator chats where people argue, I find them extremely boring. I look at them and it is absolutely not something that I could get anything out of, no matter how a conversation may go. And I don't understand. Do I get bored? Not really. I don't really get bored in my life. I always have something I'm interested in. But the way the case has been going has been a reflection of what people pay attention to. And Seth, I guess, opened the floodgates by blowing up at the guy, which I don't think is an excuse to bash him, because if you have ever a right to have a meltdown when your child is missing, that's it. That's when. Then Chris tells us, but don't ever stop. Ever. Because there will not be an end to the search. If you thought that people will find something, go out there, I don't care, take time off work. Find him now. Better sooner or later. This is Chris Proudfoot being condescending with us, his audience. Because he knows something you don't know. And he's telling you don't ever stop. If you're dumb enough to care about Sebastian, or her little retard, as he would call him and refer to him as, go ahead and waste your time searching. And don't ever stop. You're never going to stop. Because I know, and you don't, and you're not going to get any answers. So old pictures is another subject I want to talk about real quickly. Why are they always using old pictures of Sebastian? rather than the latest ones, the ones that she took at Texas Roadhouse. Well, that has to do with positive memories in retrospect, meaning when he was little, he was easier to control. Being a little child, he was scared probably. He listened. He didn't understand why there's a big bully in his house. And a lot of people interject their own personal stories about relationship abuse. You know, I need to tell you guys, everything is a two-way street in life, and people make mistakes getting themselves into bad situations. There are often patterns involved which follow us through our childhood into adulthood. Sebastian did absolutely nothing to invite this guy into his house. He did absolutely nothing to get him, his mother, and him, Chris Proudfoot, together. Sebastian was presented with a new situation, and when he was a child, he was easy to control. Now he's 15. She keeps talking about his hormones kicking in. He hates that he grows a mustache. I don't know why that is significant, but she's really grasping for anything that she can say that shows a connection between her and her son, because it allows her to maintain a cold attitude while talking. She looks for words to replace the feelings that are no longer there, if they ever were. And Sebastian, as a little child, was easy to control, and now he, as a teenager, probably changed the way he conducted himself in the house, meaning there was pushback. She says he gets aggressive, he growls. Yes, you can oppress a little child and the child may cry, but you have a teenage boy, no matter how weak he may be, how undernourished he may be, he's going to react differently. And as time goes by, that is going to be more and more the case. And they knew there was now a trend kicking in that wasn't going to change. He was not going to be taking crap from Chris the way he had been, because he was so little and didn't know anything else. He was so isolated that he didn't really know what a normal family operated like. So Chris Proudfoot tells you, don't ever stop. He knows you're not going to find anything. This is not a result-based thing. There's absolutely no rush. He's telling us, yeah, we are all guilty. So don't worry about it. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about assuming who they are versus who they truly are. And if you have any statement, you can tag me on Twitter. My username is @Firetown. You don't need to send me a message. You don't need to explain to me who you are. You don't need to introduce yourself to me. Just remember that @Firetown is my handle. If you come across something where you say, wow, this is an odd thing to say, tag me, because the first rule, my first rule of statement analysis, my first step to find the right statements, is the most important one to me.